do you keep your contact list warm? Whether you are a startup founder, an entrepreneur, or just a busy professional, I'm sure that networking is a big part of your life. Now, we don't exchange business cards as much as we used to in the past. But even so, even if we are networking more online via LinkedIn, it's still really important to bear in mind how you are going to nurture and grow the relationships. Unfortunately, if you come from a non-sales background, so for example, I started my business as a software engineer, then I had to spend so much time looking for clients, nurturing clients, and you always wonder, how can I be effective at what I'm doing? I always have a lot of things to do. There's a lot in my plate, on my plate, and I just, I'm losing my way a bit. So today I wanted to answer that question, especially as it's something that I'm currently tackling with one of the startups that I am advising. Welcome to the Mary Poppins of Startups live show. I'm Naili Makangu from Athena Leaders, an organization that is passionate about helping startups dream, play, and build whilst leaving behind the legacy of a happy and productive workplace playground. For those who are new to the show, our golden rules. If you have any questions, whatever it is, however big or small, find us online, hashtag Athena Leaders, or do comment whilst we are live. If you know anybody that can bring up lovely stories, inspirational stories, and even deep contents that can help the startup ecosystem, speak to them and get them to get in touch with us so that they can join us on the show. More importantly, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. So today we are going to really talk about this idea of nurturing your contacts and building relationships. Now, there's one misconception that building relationships and nurturing contacts is only to land new deals. I believe that it's important to expand your network way more than just that number on LinkedIn that tells you, yay, you've managed to have 1,000 contacts or 2,000 and more. You want to really, really understand people and start having some kind of relationships. Of course, you might not know everybody or have the chance to see everybody face to face. We're way past that now with the online lifestyle that we have now. Yet, one of the challenges to really getting to know the people on your network is, how do I keep all of this information organized? Especially if when I'm really busy, I'm always running, I might be delivering work for a client and at the same time need to nurture new potential clients. I might be going through an investment round, building my product, and I've got a small team. So how do I do all of that? And more importantly, how do I do all of that whilst maintaining my sanity? On episode 33, we looked at the CRM productivity hacks, and we really focused on HubSpot and how you can use HubSpot as your CRM, which is just a fancy word to say the database or the place where you store all of your contacts information. Today, we are going to take a different steps. Rather than just the tools, we are going to look at the process so that you can get the mind space that you need to be effective and to properly nurture your contacts. We're going to look at how to stay organized, how to nurture your contacts, and how to engage clients and investors. Now, let's start by looking at staying organized. I know being organized is not for everybody, right? I'm very, very organized. And maybe it's something that I got by default, but it's also something that I had to work a lot on. I always ask myself, how can I simplify what I do so that I don't spend time thinking about how to do it? I just get on and do it. As I've said before, even if you are really busy, even if at the moment you are at the early stage of building your startup, thinking about the features, thinking about building the platform, you still need to bear in mind your network. Remember, there will be a point where you will want to hire new team members. So if you go back to a previous episode on this show, I talked about getting or finding the founding team for your startups. And one of the advice was, do look after your network. So how do you look after your network? Well, we're going to talk about it today. If you want to have your first customers or even introduction to investors, most of that will come as well from your network. So it's important that you do stay organized, whether it's something that comes naturally to you or not. The first thing you want is to have one place for everything. So if you're going to decide that you're going to disconnect after this, then just pick that advice. Just spend the time to put everything that you have in one place. Some people prefer spreadsheets. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. As long as your spreadsheet is organized in the way that it gives you all of the information that you need, what you need to chase up or nurture the contacts. For others, you might use HubSpot as a CRM tool, Insightly, or whatever it is. But what you don't want to have, though, is have a bit of information in emails, some in a task note somewhere, others in a spreadsheet, so that every single time you have to do something for a client or you want to nurture a contact, you spend a lot of time chasing the information. The way I like to say that to my clients is this. If I call you or a client call you and say, in my case, Naili, I want to speak to you in 10 minutes, it's really urgent. How long will it take for me to go back and look at information or important information about that client, potential client, or a contact that I've engaged with before? The longer that time takes, the more I'm losing time and it's really affecting my productivity. So this is why it's important. And again, I will stress that please make sure that everything is in one place. In addition to being in one place, make sure that everything is tagged appropriately. By tags, it's just adding more information. So for example, if you're using a spreadsheet, do you have columns that let you know a bit more about the company or the contacts? Things like the industry, what are the things that you are providing to them, whether it's a product or a service? Are they customers now, or are they just prospects or evangelists? Are they where are they on the journey? Have they rejected you for one reason? Maybe they say no to some of the product that you offered, or maybe they say no, not right now. But is this information tagged in a way that in the future, if you wanted to offer something else to that client, you could search very quickly and find the clients or the potential clients or contacts that you've engaged with along those lines? So this is really, really important. For example, I used to nurture a lot of people when it comes to the future of work and this idea of remote working, even before the pandemic, because that's how I wanted to build my business. And the great thing was when I got to the point that I've built a lot of contacts and relationships out there, I started my live show and I wanted to find experts to come and talk. It was really, really easy. I went into my CRM tool, I searched by future of work, and I look at the list of contacts that I put down there, and I started tagging the one that I would like to invite as speakers over the next 2 or 3 years. So as you see, it didn't take me, the entire day going into LinkedIn, trying to figure out what was the name of that woman, what was the name of that man, what was the name of that person. It was so much easy. So if you're going to do one thing today, please put everything in one place and tag it. And I'm sure you're probably thinking, I don't have time for that. Now you want me to go back and look at everything I've done so far? Remember what Stephen Covey said in one of his book, I think it's The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. What you need to think about your quadrant, the second quadrant, so things that are important and not urgent. Those are the things that really helps in terms of productivity, but because it's not urgent and nobody's screaming and pushing you to do that, they never get done. So if you want to save in terms of time and productivity in the future, you do need to make sure that you do this stage of solidifying all of your information, your contacts in one place and tagging everything. The third thing you want to add in that information as part of the putting everything in one place is to have a high-level summary note. And by that is the summary note that you read when someone calls you and say, I want to have a call with you in 10 minutes, right? Again, you might not have that call, but it's a way for you to, or the point that I use to explain that to my clients, why it's important to have the information. 10 minutes, okay, I can read that note. I know vaguely what we've talked about, and I can have the call. That note doesn't have to have a lot of information. Something that's very critical and important. It could be the kind of conversation we had before, whether you've offered them certain services, maybe there are services that don't work for them. You already know what might not work for them. There's no point mentioning to them again. Maybe there's an upsell on there. You can put that. Or maybe it's just, to keep up in terms of the relationship building, things that you might want to share with them or things that they might have shared with you in the past so that you can follow up with that. And sometimes I even put things like birthdays because, people love their birthdays. So if I follow up with someone, especially if we have a great relationship and there's something interesting happening around their birthdays, why not mention that to them? But it's really important to have that high level summary. Again, you don't want to spend the time reading the entire history, reading the entire emails. Even if a tool like HubSpot will flag all of the emails from Outlook and other places and bring it there, you still want to have a high level summary so that you don't spend time reading all the emails. For people who are not sure how to do that, especially on HubSpot, you can create a pinned note, which is the note that's always going to be at the top of or follow the notes that you ever write. Then you can look at the accounts. You can look at HubSpot per account or company or per contacts that you have spoken to in that company. And every time you look at any of these accounts, you always have the same pin note. So you update the pin note once per company, even if you are talking to 5 other people. Every time you look at each person, you have the same high-level summary notes. If you want to know how to do that using HubSpot, then please do go back in episode 33 on CRM productivity hacks, where we went into a lot of details. And the last one is to keep a summary of all of the conversations. And again, the difference is that the high-level notes doesn't have all of the details, the details of how the journey progressed with the clients, but you can have a bit more after that, right? So you want to have the high-level summary, and you want to have another one where, let's say you had a call with the clients and maybe there was an email. You can quickly summarize the emails in 3 bullet points and put that as a note. Why is it important? Again, remember, we are all very busy. I want to make the process of nurturing clients or nurturing contacts as easy and simple as possible. When you read an email and you summarize it straight away in 3 bullet points that make sense to you, or however long, many number of words you want, then the next time you're reading that is a lot faster rather than having to go back and read the emails. Remember that we all have different personality types. I'm more of a bullet points, so I like things to be brief. I do have clients that are very, well on my style, send me emails, are brief, to the point. I love that. Others, whether it's the clients, partners, or whatever, that prefer to write in paragraphs because that's how their thought process is. And sometimes when it goes over 1 page of A4 in an email, I always feel like, oh my God, this is like War and Peace. So I read the information once and then I summarize it in bullet points so that next time I need very quick information, I don't have to reread the emails. I've got the key points. And if I wanted to read the emails, well, it's always going to be there on Outlook or HubSpot, right? But the important thing is I've created a process that works for me and the way I think, regardless of the way the information was provided to me. So as you can see, just doing this, I know you might be thinking, especially if you have information in different places, or maybe you've done some of the things I've suggested today, but not others. You might be thinking, this is going to take me a lot of time. Well, start today. For every single new contact that you add or any new interaction that you have with a new contact or all contacts, you can start cleaning up your CRM as you go along. But I do suggest that, again, just think about Q2 quadrants activities, important but not urgent. Doing those things that I've shared with you today in terms of staying organized, we put you ahead of 50% of a lot of entrepreneurs and busy people out there in terms of reducing your stress level. You don't have to keep all of the information in your head. It's there in one place. You are never searching for anything, and it's going to be amazing for you, as it's been for me and so many of the startups and the other people that I've advised so far. So if you are watching this, if you have any questions, you know where I am. Please do comment live, or if you're watching afterwards, #Athena Leaders. So we're going to look at the second part now, tips on nurturing your contacts. I'm assuming that by the moment you want to put some of this in practice, you spend at least a day to think about how you're going to put things in one place, and also how you are going to be able to nurture your contacts and how you're going to be able to kind of tag them as well. So the things you want to bear in mind when it comes to nurturing contacts is one very, very important question. What is the outcome that you want from that contact? Remember that when we're looking at this idea of nurturing, it's not just to close a deal, right? Sometimes sales or business development is not really about selling to the person that you're speaking to. It's about building the great relationship as much as you can, because you never know when someone who knows someone who knows someone might know someone who wants to join a startup as at an early stage because they want to be part of the founding team, or maybe someone that might want to come to you as a CEO, or someone might want to maybe use your product in the future. It's really important that you know what is the outcome that you want from the relationship. Even if the outcome is, I just love the content online. I love what they put out there when it comes to equity and when it comes to working with startups. I love what they put out there when it comes to the future of work. Whatever it is, just put it somewhere so that you know the outcome. Going back to my previous advice, the more you do this work up front, the easier it is going forward. The second question you want to ask yourself, how often do you want to reach out to those people, right? What kind of information is relevant to them? You want to be able to again know, whether reaching out to someone is just following them on social media. That's also very important. Commenting to what post they put it out there. It's not just to comment, which I don't particularly like. It's actually so that you get to know them, get to know the kind of thing that they're putting out there, because you never know at what point it's going to be relevant. Even just to refer them to someone else. It's not just for your own benefits. This idea of nurturing contacts is a give, right? So you give a little bit and you might get from someone else. It doesn't matter. But the important thing is to know whether you just want to reach out to them from a nurturing point of view, or whether it's a sales aspect. If there's any information that they use and they use quite a lot, then you might also want to bring that, share that with them as well. Once you have that information, it takes us to step number 3. Create a tasks for every single contact that you have, whether it's, I would say, let's say accounts. And the reason why I said account is because you can have a company and 5 people that you're speaking to within the company. Then you want to make sure that for that company, there's always an open tasks to either chase up, to work with them, or send them information, to nurture them. As I've mentioned, the examples of the things that you can use are follow up on social media, whether it's a message or just interacting with them, sending them messages to refer them to other people. In fact, something that happened last week, one of my contacts, again, she was a guest on the Mary Poppins of Startup show, talking about the future of work. She sent me a message randomly on social media and asked me to have a conversation with a woman that is starting a business looking at quality. That was really nice of her. I didn't really ask for that. And of course, I did follow up and have a lovely conversation with that woman. And now I know that I've grown my network through someone out of the blue sending me information that was really useful to me, again, in terms of growing my network. So you see, sometimes it's not about reinventing the engine. It's about, how can I bring value to my contacts, as well as making sure that we are growing relationship with that as well. And in fact, I also do that in my personal life. Sometimes because again, I do have, one day I may tell you my long story of entrepreneurship and fun and playground and everything. So I do know a lot of people in different places in the world. And sometimes even in my personal life, I struggle to keep in touch with everybody. So what I'm now doing is that, especially the people I care about, I do have sometimes where I dedicate to, following them. They are in my CRM. So that's if life gets in the way, because, for me, someone's 1 week can feel like a day sometimes because of everything that I do, but I know I'm following up with them. When you have a tasks with all of that information, it makes that process easy. Remember, this is not about sending them information, but it's about creating a task with a deadline on when you are going to follow up with them. So then what do? You have all this information. Your CRM has been cleaned up, one place for everything. You know what you want from every single contact and how you're going to work or nurture the relationship with them. I will suggest you to pick 1 day a week when you really work on nurturing your contacts. It could even be half a day every week, however you want to do it. It could be, for me, for example, I do it on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And one of the reasons why it's super easy for me to do that is because I don't have to think and ask myself whether I want to do it or not. It just happens. And why? Well, remember that depending on your background, mine is a software engineer that went into management leadership and still work in technology. But yours could be similar, or you could just be whatever it is. It might be that you might not have had an extensive experience in sales and business development. So those tasks might not be as exciting as someone who comes in sales. They're like, yes, I love doing this every day. But for me, it takes a lot of energy. So I'd like to make it as simple, as fun as possible. Remember, it's all about creating a workplace playground. And this is the way I'm doing it for myself. So on a Tuesday, I will start in the morning, coffee if I need to, or I just go first, do my CrossFit. This is kind of my coffee, to be honest. Then I sit down and give myself 3 hours, no phone, nothing, and I'm just going to go straight to work. And the reason why I can do that is because I've already got into the habit of creating a tasks for every single contact and what I'm going to do for that particular day. I put a deadline when I create the tasks. So when I look on Tuesday, I might say, what are the tasks that that I need to complete this week, or maybe the last week, or at least within this month? And I start working one after another. Because I have the task, I don't have to ask myself, what do I need to do for this account? Everything is already there for me. Because I already know the summary, I've already got the summary information. When I want to work on the task and I want to remind myself of what I need to do, the summary information is there. So you can see it becomes more of a transactional activity rather than forcing myself to do something that might make me feel uncomfortable or not. I just do it because I simplified my life, it's not in my head, and it's there. I know that some people might say that it's a lot of information out there, or it requires a lot of organization. But honestly, do try this for a month or 2 months, and you will realize how it really, really helps your productivity. So there we have it. I've shared with you 2 tips so far. One was on a few tips on staying organized and also nurturing your contacts. If you have any questions, do please keep in touch. And if you're starting putting it together, you still have questions, or there are things that don't work well for you, or you are struggling to get into the habits of doing that, do get in touch with me, and I will share with you other tips that I use to improve my productivity. As I've been hacking my productivity for many, many years. Honestly, that can be a topic of another conversation. So I'll be happy to share with you other information. And thanks again for all of the interesting chat that we're having live. That's really great. So please keep going on that as well. Lastly, we are going to look at how to engage clients and investors. Everything that we've said so far works for clients and investors. When we're talking about clients here, or even investors, we're also looking at potential clients or investors. And more importantly, the clients and investors that said no to you at some point. The reason why I added this section on today's talk was because of the conversation that I had as part of a startup advisory session that I had last week. We looked at what to do to help my clients to increase the number of companies that might want to use his products. And my first question was, so what has been the feedback so far? Which he knew what the feedback was. And the second was, well, so what is the list of the companies that have given you the feedback, and how are you storing that information? And his face was like, I'm not really sure. I will need to think about that. One of the most important thing when you are, running your own business, is obviously you need to get good at accepting rejections. It's part of life, whether personally or professionally. But the most important thing when you build your business is that a rejection can be an opportunity for you to get better. In fact, in a conversation that we had live, I think it was episode 26 with Elena from Metaspace, a startup that are working on a product to deal with sexual harassment. One of the key things that they've used in their company to turn objection around was to take a data-driven approach to looking at the rejection that were coming their way. In a way, you could gamify it so that you don't feel the weight of rejection, but you use that as an opportunity to get better. So whenever they had the rejection, they kept the database of all of the rejection that they've had. to understand how to build some of the features that maybe one of the clients says no because you guys don't have XYZ. They can build that in the product roadmap in the future. To understand what people are saying so that they can go back and next time when they speak to another clients or potential clients, they can work through the objection. They know what they might say and they can target that upfront. Of course, this is sales 101, and people might say, poof, it's rocket science. If it is rocket science for you, it might not be for other people. As I said before, there are many people that come from a non-sales background. I was one of them. And the first time I had to do that, whew, that wasn't the easiest thing to do. Going further from just having this data-driven approach, just for building or improving your product, it's also so that you can nurture those clients along the journey. When a potential client say no, especially because your product is early stage or there are some features that might not be available, well, how about keeping the conversation open and continuing to build the relationship? Follow them online to understand their journey, the kind of thing that they talk about, the things that are important to them. So that it gives you an inspiration as you are growing your product. And if you eventually build the thing that they might want, you can go back to them in the future and surprise them and give them a product that they might, more likely say yes, or they might say, we are getting close to you. So it's really important that when you are engaging with clients and investors, especially if they are lukewarm or they might like your idea, but they think it's not right now, don't take it as a complete no. Think about how you are going to nurture them. Going back to the previous section on just nurturing your contacts, what kind of information can you send to them? In addition to just social media, is there any summary that you can send to them as your product is growing so that they feel involved in your journey, especially if there are some kind of affinity between the two of you? Is this something that you want to send as a personalized email, monthly, quarterly, every 6 months, or whether you want to send that as a mailing list? So all that depends on your situation, your relationship with the potential investors, your relationship with the potential clients, but it's important to have that strategy. But one thing I will say though, even if you decide to send an email every 6 months, do think about something that you can do every quarter or even every month as a task, just to keep the lead warm, just to keep the contacts warm. And as I mentioned before, the very minimal things that you can do is to engage with people on social media, as that's the new way that we build contacts. And yes, it works. I live in pretty much 2 countries and I maintain good relationship with people from around the world, some that I probably will never see or others that I will eventually see. But the thing is, it's just by being very mindful about me wanting to build a great relationship, not just land a sale on the day. So there you have it. And today was really about to help you to think about how to nurture your contacts, keep your contact list warm, and stay organized. As I've mentioned all the way through, if you would like to find more hands-on advice on a tool to help you do what we've talked about today, do go back to episode 33 when we looked at CRM and productivity hacks. That will really help you put together especially the first part when I talked about staying organized. How do you do that practically in HubSpot? That's on episode 33. If you decide not to use HubSpot, the advice that you have today, you can implement that with whatever tool that you want. And again, stay tuned as we are going to release a blog post on this. So depending on when you are watching this episode, check our website so that you can find out more information, step-to-step information on this, as you can start just implementing that in your business. As usual, if you have any questions on anything that we've spoken to today or in the future, you know where to find me, #Athena Leaders, and I will be more than happy to answer you live. If you know any startup founders that would love to jump and deeper in terms of startup advisory, tell them to reach out to the Mary Poppins of startups. In the meantime, let's design a happy and productive workplace playground together.